Ready.
I'd like to call to order the Osage Minerals Council regular meeting Friday, February the 3rd, 2023. It's right at 10:05. We would like to have the opening prayer at this time. Please rise and second church history will take care of prayer. Thank you, brother.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Bless our lessees that are here with us today. Bless our families that have lost loved ones over these holidays times. Thank you for sparing us of the bad weather that hit everybody else during this time. Bless those people that are having to go through it. We ask this in your heavenly, gracious name. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilman Bighorse,
Here.
Second Chair Tishewala,
Present.
Councilwoman Curry. Councilwoman Curry,
As called in, and she'll be with us in a moment.
Councilman Redcorn,
Here.
Councilman Red Eagle,
Here.
Councilman Rebard,
Present.
Councilman Shackelford,
Present.
Chairman Waller.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Yes, with the roll call, I'd like to entertain the council requests that we want to take an item to executive. Councilman Red Eagle, you had talked about that. Would you like to entertain that at this time?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Talked to a couple of the Osage Council, General Council members. We think it might be appropriate to talk about the regulations in an executive session. You know, kind of have a game plan going forward. And, talking among ourselves before February the 8th, whatever date of the meeting.
Yes, sir. Does council all agree that we can add that into the agenda and cover some other items for that topic, especially since we have that meeting coming up? With that, Lacey, that will be the only amendment to the agenda. Council, is there any other requests? Hearing none, I'd like to move on down to the next item under new business. I have APAC Paragon 214 lease, Josh Davis. Mr. Davis, come join us. Make yourself at home.
Thank you, sir.
The floor is yours, sir. Good morning.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me this morning. I'm here before you to talk about a project that we are under contract with the state of Oklahoma, the Department of Transportation. This is for the widening and resurfacing of State Highway 20 in Osage County.
Yeah.
Starts right there, Highway 99 in Hominy, and goes east 5 miles. And it ties in, if you've driven that corridor, you'll notice that once you get about 5 miles east of Hominy, the road goes from a 2-lane road with no shoulders to a 2-lane road with 8-foot shoulders as you continue east. And that's what this project entails.
Yes, by the old Carpenter house. Old Dowwell turn on. Know it well.
So that,
And I saw, are you involved in the bridge project? I hate to interrupt,
no, sir, that is a separate contract.
but you are adjoining to that bridge on and coming out east?
No, sir. There's actually a little gap in roadway between where that bridge project, I'm not exactly sure how far south that bridge project is, or if there's any asphalt work associated with it.
And your project is how far?
It begins right at the intersection of Highway 99 and goes east 5 miles.
Lacey, have we seen that plan?
I did send that.
Okay. Do you have any materials that you're going to take out of the right of way and use?
All the material, so the project does entail 92,000 cubic yards of earth moving that has to be done to create the road bed for the new shoulders.
Yes, sir.
I believe all but about 10,000 cubic yards of that material will be incorporated on the project, so there is approximately 10,000 cubic yards of earth that will have to be taken off-site
Yes,
and used in some manner. So we're the prime contractor with the state. We have a subcontractor, Paragon, who is with us here this morning. They will be moving all the earth, grading slopes and so on and so forth, clearing the trees out. That's kind of the scope of work. all box culverts and any drainage structures will also be extended in the right of way.
Okay.
Then there'll be a new asphalt surface in the end. Other than that, the work in Hominy is a little more detailed. You guys are all familiar with Hominy. It's just kind of a two-lane road with kind of a paved shoulder, so to speak. It will have curb and gutter and storm drainage
Nice.
from Highway 99, just up to the, I'm gonna say the last business, so to speak, Wild Country means before it kind of becomes a rural highway. So that, all that in-town area will have curb and gutter, storm sewer, there's also some sanitary sewer and water line work associated with work in town.
And you'll handle all the relocation with Paragon, is that right?
As
You'll
far as-
handle all the relocation of utilities or
yeah,
sewer.
We actually have another subcontractor that is specifically doing the water and the sewer
We
line.
can't wait.
I'm not sure.
Where do I sign?
Say a shoulder finally.
Council, with the usage of it, I think that we should go ahead. Lacey, do we need a resolution that allows them to, the 214 permit? Since we're not waiving it, we'll just go ahead and have a resolution that allows you that process. With your contractor here, have you done work in the Osage Reservation before? I know APAC has, but have you?
No, I don't know that I have.
Well, welcome to the Osage Reservation. Any inverted fines, elements, because you're going to a campsite there that's pretty old. But when you come down that Pin Creek and all, just bear with us if something comes up. Call him and then you'll call our people. But with that being said, is there any other requirements that you need from us today?
No, sir, just a sandy soil mining permit so that I can present that to the Department of Transportation so that we can proceed.
Yes, sir. Yes, council.
I think he's asking for, go ahead.
He's asking for a permit.
Oh, you're gonna go ahead and get a sandy soils permit?
Well, according to our contract, the way I read it, sir, with the state of Oklahoma, is I'm required to obtain one in order to do.
He doesn't need anything from us.
No, he's over the limit on the removal part, so.
I mean, we're not, there's no offsite borrow that has to be brought in from a private property and brought in to produce, create the roadway. All the materials will be incorporated on the job.
We'll catch you either coming or going.
That's right. But we will have to dispose of about 10,000 yards. We do not have a site located yet. We would like to find a property owner adjacent to the roadway. That needs approximately.
Those roads gonna be fixed up now.
And those are state estimates, that's, whether or not those are perfectly accurate at this point in time, it may all be incorporated. But there is no offsite borrow.
Yes, sir. The closest federal land that's non-restricted is, of course, our village. But we have an ownership there already that's in between us.
No, sir, first, so we have a quarry on your reservation, so I reached out to our manager of our quarry, Lacey.
Yes.
So this process for us is just beginning.
Yes, sir. Council, I'd like to entertain, yes, sir.
Thank you. The question I had, a couple of questions. Is it going to require any new right-of-way, or is all this activity going to occur on the existing right-of-way?
As far as I know, sir, there's no additional right of way that would need to be incorporated. And if it had to have been done for this project, it would have already been, all that would have been taken care of by the Department of Transportation before they put this to contract. So no, sir, there is no additional right of way.
Okay, so, 8 feet on each side of the highway, is that what it is? 8 feet shoulders?
8 foot shoulders.
So it'd be 16 total feet,
Yes, sir.
a distance of 5 miles.
Yes, sir, and they already have the right of way there. The actual road is at level B that's actually too small for the right of way they have now. So the expansion's available, and they've already corrected it in the city of Hominy, where the expansion's going to take out some of the old businesses. They've already got rid of them, but I know that right of way well.
What type of material will be, that you said that 10,000 yards will be removed from the property? What type of material is it? Is it dirt, rock, a combination of dirt, and rock?
Well, we don't anticipate encountering any rock, so we are anticipating all to be dirt, soil product. I'm not saying that we won't encounter rock, but we don't, there's nothing in the plans and the engineering that led us to believe we'll incorporate rock.
What do we usually, is there any preference of where we might want that material moved to? Who owns the material? Who owns the material being transported? If it's topsoil, does that belong to the service owner?
The actual ownership falls under us. The actual usage of it falls under his contract. And also remember, they already have this right of way that they've already taken care of. They're not expanding it, and if it does, the permit covers that also. But the specific question that you're asking is about.
Who owns the first inch of dirt? We own every grain of sand or dirt. And I guess we would have a say of where we would want it relocated to. And would we be responsible? I'm just curious how in the past this has worked. What if we had a particular area, say for instance a casino would like to fill in a ravine, could we keep a call on that dirt? Well, you say we already own it. Could we have it moved if they need to get rid of it from the right of way? Could we have it directed to be moved there? If so, at whose expense?
Falls under the contract.
But I mean, if we say we wanted to transport it all the way across the county,
I got some comments. We own it. It's ours. The casino in Tulsa has a big, huge dirt pile behind it because people just can't figure out what they want to do with it. You go right over here, there's a big rock pile over here because we can't figure out what to do with it. So, and then we don't want, to me, Lee, Red Corn on the Mineral Council, I don't want to slow down construction progress. Gentleman's coming in asking for permit. I thought you was asking for a waiver because you're a little bit over 13,000 cubic. You allow him to write 5,000 cubic, you don't have to come. Okay. But it's a little bit over. So now we gotta have a resolution, as it says. I'd recommend him asking, do you need a waiver? If you wanna apply for a sandy soil permit, that's a big endeavor. So that's why I'm saying, if I think he's asking for a waiver, and if the mineral council's okay with another 5,000 or so going over, the BIA's okay with it, I think, but we just need to ask. And that would get, I mean, I agree with you, Paul, if we want to do something, but I've been in this battle before. I tell people, I want 200 to 300 whatever on my lawn. I said, if I give you as an Osage, I got to give all 4,000 of my shareholders that much dirt. You know, I got to be fair about it. I can't just hand it over to somebody. So those questions always come up. So that's kind of where we are. If we want to say, let's give them a waiver.
I got this.
So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yes, okay, well, I'm just trying to get educated with the process. That's all. I'm not trying to delay anything. Just curious. If they were grinding up some old material, that could be used on lease roads, or it could be used on some of our tribal lands for roads. In this case, we're talking about dirt, okay? Now you're talking about topsoil for somebody's yard. I hadn't even thought about that, but I'm just trying to get educated about the process. But back to the waiver versus the lease. I thought I heard him say that the contract with the state requires X, Y, Z. So even if we want to give a waiver because we're going in excess of the pre-authorized waivers we've already got in place, that still may not give them, they still may have to go through another process if they actually have a contract that says you have to do X, Y, Z. I guess we could give them a waiver, they can take that waiver and go deal with whatever hoop they have to jump through for the state.
I've got to revert back to the MOU we made with the state of Oklahoma, ODOT, and it actually requires him to do that from this council if he goes over the 5,000, and that will protect us also in case of expansion, other elements, but the contract allows them to use it. After they get this permit, then they could possibly come back to us, or we used to go to the county with this. As you've known, last month, we allowed the other usage of a contractor that took it to but it doesn't leave the reservation. And in this case, we might have to work that out, but, good morning there, how are you?
I have a final question.
Yes, sir.
I'm curious to know, I realize you're working within a right-of-way, but this is new construction. Are you required by any federal entity, or state for that matter, to perform any type of environmental assessment or historical study, inspection on this new construction site?
Thank you, sir. From our perspective, the contractor, no, we are not required to do any archaeological or environmental assessment. All that is supposed to have been done by the state of Oklahoma prior to these sets of plans being advertised to bid. So yes, to answer your question, yes, sir, that was all done. I do not, I guess I don't have anything to present to you today with anything that came from that assessment by the state of Oklahoma.
Well, can I ask the rest of you council members that are familiar with these right-of-ways with utilities and roads and the Department of Transportation, is that something that's typically done for construction? So you think the state's already performed this?
I mean, if you're following ODOT regulations and guidelines to the T, I'm sure the contractors back here and all that's called in, you know, if you get federal money to do this, you gotta jump through all the federal hoops. I mean, we got our own ODOT guys on HIP down here. So I would assume, yes, all that's been taken care of, unless somebody walks in the door and says, no, they haven't. Yeah, I think we're good to go, but that's my guess.
Typically, they take care of all that up front. They hire a contractor.
I was gonna say, that's also a requirement as a former member of the OTAP, which is a part of the state of Oklahoma. ODOT has that before they let the bid out. And that's why I asked you about inadvertent fines. That triggers the concept of that environmental and tribal historic 106 Act, council.
I was gonna ask Ms. Curry, she's sat in that seat. This gentleman's asking, I guess it's been directed to ask for sandy soils permit to do this work 5 miles on the highway, and I was thinking maybe he needs a waiver more than a permit. What do you think? Is that, do we need a permit for him to go?
Is he gonna sell it?
It is not our intention to sell the material. It's our intention to find a property owner that is willing to take the material. Is that correct?
Yeah. So-
Now, go ahead and enjoy.
Mr. Matt Roden has a property adjacent on this project.
You were so close. Announce that, who has the property?
Matt Roden,
Okay. Is that John Roy and him's boy?
I'm not sure who it is, sir.
I think so. Fine man, he was a fine man.
Chairman, I think.
I'd like to go back to yours. Yes, sir.
You're not gonna sell it. If you're gonna, then I don't know why we couldn't give them a waiver.
Just because they went over the 5,000 yards. And I think the criteria is also, we've got to follow the MOU, which we made with the ODOT. And it's stated in there, and why is because we had to protect ourselves from the project over by Bartlesville. and the last criteria that wasn't met there. So, this is actual requirement, and I would like to entertain a motion to have a 214 permit assigned to APAC at this time. Council, I have a motion.
I just had discussion,
Did you second it?
there's no discussion.
I need a second. I will second. Second, I have a second. I have a motion on the floor by Councilman Shackelford, seconded by Councilman Bighorn. Discussion. Councilman Reddick.
Thanks, Chairman. Wait, it's going back and forth from permit to waiver, we dealt with this before. On the secretarial council, they built that new highway, but there were wells in that area, the right side to the left. And that's why they had to settle with us. If there's not any pipelines or wells, which you're doing that 5 miles, I would think, every time you dig into down here, it belongs to the Osage tribe, right? And anytime you dig dirt at all, it belongs to the Osage Nation. That's why you're here. But if you're gonna remove it and use it again, just like a lot of them do, I think it needs a waiver. So, yeah, I agree.
I know that he's gonna have to replace some of it to get the compaction. He's gonna need to put it in. That's just the old ODOT, TIP program director that I used to be in my former life. I think that we should stay with that. It protects us and it protects them also. The permit itself, I'd like to waive it, but we've set the marker and bar so high, we're going above it, and I just want to know that you're going to run into a problem every mile. That's all I'm saying. No matter what you think this is going to work, he knows it the most. No telling what you're going to run into. But with a motion on the floor, I'd like to go ahead and give them the 214 permit and all that it requires to the Bureau. If they come up to another place of restricted property on this, you might even look to contacting them. I'm not for sure if Ms. Crawford's land's closer than some folks in this room, but I would meet with them also, if available. Council.
Call for the question.
Thank you, sir. Call for the question, please.
Councilman Bighorn,
Yes.
Second Chair Tishewala,
Yes.
Councilwoman Curry,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yeah.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Councilman Shackelford,
Yes.
Chairman Waller.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, sir. You are set to go. Make all your applications with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. If you run into any problems, check in with Lacey or make sure you talk to the superintendent. Good luck.
I will, sir, thank you. Thank you, look forward to this.
I'd like to move on to item B, scholarship. Ms. Curry, Councilwoman.
I noticed in our emails that we had missed one scholarship for Elizabeth Weil.
Oh, we did. I did entertain her. Yes, Council.
This was a scholarship that was, I guess, hand-delivered to VA. We actually don't know how it got here, but we got it about 2 weeks after the due date. She was a very good candidate for the scholarship, but so it wasn't reviewed. She has received it before a couple times.
Oh, she is a recipient and has kept her grades up and all that. I'd love to see continuing that because we've had some very good folks, students that we've put through, and then we're going to have to take University of Oklahoma to task. Council.
Thank you, Chairman. Seems like, did she slip through the cracks the last time?
She did.
Thank you.
I don't know if she's hand-delivering it to BIA and it sits over there for a while, or
They were closed.
we don't know what's happening.
But, what we usually do, we supported 4 scholarships the last time, and our resolution says we only support 4 per semester. But if it's up to the council, if you want to include as well, she's a very good student, her grades are very good.
She's got good grades and she's.
But let me finish. But if the council wants to support her, that'll be 5 per semester. But we only do 4 according to the resolution. So it's up to the council if you want to include her.
Yes, sir. Are you done? Yes, sir.
You got money in 510 to do it?
Yes.
I said, let's do it.
Would you like to entertain the motion that we,
Entertain motion to go ahead and approve those as well.
Second.
I have a second. I have a motion on the floor by Councilman Curry, seconded by Councilman Redcorn.
I'm gonna say repeat from yes, 510.
Yes, ma'am. I think it's one of the qualities that is best. And I know for a fact we're gonna have to do some other things, but this scholarship is one of the others. Is there any other discussion? I'd like to call for the question.
I'm gonna just second it.
Seconded, Councilman Redcorn.
Agree on that.
And we will cover this at S 510. Councilman Red Eagle.
Yeah, I'll be in contact with Ms. Well next time she applies for, she's still in school. Next time she applies to send the letter to us instead of being.
Actually, we didn't get it from there.
She is, like, our address was on the envelope. There's no like postmark though, so that's, I don't know if we were close.
Well, she's a geology engineer.
Yeah. Oh, I want to just keep pushing. Yes, sir. Council, let's call for the question.
Second Chair Tishewala,
Yes.
Councilwoman Curry,
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn,
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle,
Yeah.
Councilman Rebar,
Yes.
Councilman Shackelford,
Yes.
Chairman Waller,
Yes.
Councilman Big Horse.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, council. Appreciate that. Also, I do want to make one comment. You guys have all seen the Facebook over at University of Oklahoma. Some of our students down there are reviewing how they're spending the headright portion of their scholarship. We had to take it to task when I was on tribal council because they were given non-Osage as a recipient. So we need to just think about what we're going to do about it. I think there's a criteria that we forced them as a tribal. I don't know what the nation has said to them, but I think the criteria needs to be Osage, student, and also allow a broader vision of engineering and design, just as you say. Councilman Redcorn.
I graduated from there, and they would not give me that scholarship. And it's for Osages, and it's for men singing. With a good GPA and all that, they wouldn't give it to me.
That's
It's Tony Redcorn, and I'm still perturbed about it.
He's already
And
a veteran, wasn't he?
I was standing in line on the scholarship line, they were handing out checks, and they gave it to I don't know where, I guess I can't say that nowadays, but I don't think this person was from the United States.
Of course.
And they were a visiting student from a foreign country, and he asked, barely speaking English, I'll have my Roxy Scott scholarship. I handed him that check. I was right behind him. I'm telling you, those Osages going down there should not even have to pay for their education. That's how much money's in this. But they won't give them to Osages. Something going on here.
We will,
Totally
look
support
into
that. If we need to jump in that, me as a mineral, I will totally support that. Get that scholarship rolled out to our people.
yes, I just wanted to bring
I
that
think it's
up.
racist.
You know
I
it
think it's
is.
a racist maneuver by OU's scholarship department. It's bad. And I took it all the way to the president of OU then, back when I was there. But they just flat refused to give it to Osages. So I think it's a tragedy, but
We ran into the same thing. Let's fix it. Let's go review it and help our education department and any assistance they might need. Because when it comes down to the headright, they'll have to come see us on the delivery of it to them. But I know that it had special requirements. We're gonna have to fix it. We did not change the requirements of it last time, but as brothers just said, we're not recipients of it. And I think that we need to review how much of our headright money has been spent without going to a Osage. And I do want to say the other, is it was done in an earlier time. It's no reflection on my council. But at that time, they didn't even think about the women power that we face today. So that's the first thing I want to change. The young ladies, whoever you are, you're Osage, you apply for this. And I am going to ask you that on some other items, on scholarships, even when we use it, we need a broader base for this now. As all you know, technology has moved way ahead of when this started. We need to add where the technology event could also be a scholarship like we do with Latynka. And that's the changes I think should be made. That was just for discussion. We'll review that. With that, we're set. You've got the resolution for our student. I'd like to move on down. Council, any other questions before we move on? With that, I'd like to go to Raptor Assessment. Mr. Hesser, please.
Chairman, could I?
Council.
Yeah, thank you. This subject that's coming up now, this agenda item, involves the Continental properties that we've talked about a couple of times in the past meetings. And if I remember correctly, we had a resolution that we adopted to have you write a letter to the superintendent regarding the wells on those properties.
Yes, sir.
Which I think you did.
Yes, sir.
From what I understand from talking to our staff recently, there's not been a response yet from the superintendent regarding that letter that you wrote. The letter was asking that it was a request for them not to do the plugging of those wells.
That's correct.
At this time. And I think that we've also talked about that since there's been so much interest in those Continental properties, that we thought it'd be best and prudent for us to obtain information from the BIA regarding the well records and the disposition of the properties and the history about the properties, so we become familiar with the property.
Yes, sir, Council.
And that's something that we're in the process of doing. So I think it's premature to talk about the Continental properties today until we get a response from the BIA, until we become familiar with the property ourselves, before we can entertain any further discussions with outside parties about those properties. I'd like to be familiar with them first, so we know what we're talking about. And with that, that's all I have to say right now. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Councilman Redcorn.
Thank you. Yeah, I read the 3-pager that Raptor sent. I appreciate it. One of the comments in this chamber was we need an assessment what we're looking at with the Continental. And I agree. And I think maybe this is what this group can offer, is that assessment. And then we can say, you know, we know what we're looking at. So anyway, I think we ought to hear them out. But I know there's other people, we turned one down in a meeting. They came straight in here and asked for it. And Mr. Reddigo and I wanted to pass that off and get it moving and get this well in, but it was turned down. So I think we need to at least to hear a couple of these before we start throwing them out the door, see what they got to say, let us council be informed, and we'll have it, you know, okay, this person or this group's doing this, or they offer this one, we know what the last two offered, that was a month and a half ago. I know what they said, I kinda liked what they said, maybe that's good. We're educating ourselves on what we're looking at the Continental. But I would say, let's just hear what they got to say. What's the offer here? What can they do to help us get more value of what we got in our hands?
Council, are you done?
Yes, sir.
Councilman. Thank you, Chairman. I'm not opposed to hearing what they have to say and what their plans might be, but I just think it's premature. I'd like to become familiar with the properties ourselves. Somebody's coming to us to talk to us about a set of properties that we know is very valuable. And not only was there one person last week or a couple of weeks ago, I know of 4 entities that have come to us. I know that if and when word gets out about these properties, there'll be many, many more. And not just locals. I think at some point, these properties could be advertised, nationally, but right now, all we know, I could not tell you where these properties are. As many times as we've talked about the Continental properties, I don't even know where the heck they are. Are they next to Pahuska? Are they over by Peru? Are they over by Fairfax? I don't even know where they are, much less know anything about them. I say it's premature for us to be discussing these properties with an outside entity until we become familiar with them ourselves. That's all, and I'd like to make a motion that we table this agenda item until such time that we're prepared to entertain a discussion about it. Not that there's an offer today about these particular properties, but it's the first line of their presentation. Their very first line on the presentation talks about these Continental 30-quarter sections. I don't think there's 30, I think there's 20, there was 29, now they're down to 24, 27, I don't even know. But I'd like to table this until such time that we, 8 council members, become familiar with the properties.
Yes, sir.
That's all.
That's in form of a motion.
That's a motion.
I need a second. I have a second by Councilman, Big Horse. Sir, did you want a discussion?
Got a comment
Yes, sir.
for discussion. I don't think reading that, what was presented, they're offering to lease it. Is that right?
That is correct.
We're not gonna lease it. We're gonna try to find out what's out there. Try to look at what the assessment, do an assessment of this property. What is, we've got 2 engineers, petroleum engineers that are pretty seasoned in the field, can bring it to the table. Got Jan, EOR expert, Phillips Petroleum. Burbank, did a lot of work in the Burbank and some of those other areas. That's a 20, 30-year thing that we'd had the water flood. Polymer, take a look at all that and see what we got. That's all this is. It's not a lease. It's not an offer. I think it's something that Mr. Revard asked for. He said, I'd like to know what's going on out there. Well, this is an opportunity to find out. I say, let's just hear it out. I'm prepared to vote no on this table.
Thank
I
you.
want to hear what they got to say.
Councilman Red Eagle, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. You know, thinking about any time you deal with the BIA and Growing Indian Affairs, it always takes at least 2 months. I know we wrote that letter quite a while ago. We still haven't heard it. Have you heard anything back from them?
No.
That's what I'm saying. It takes a long, long time for them to get, they only got 5 members. They're not even there half the time. We walk in that room over there, there's probably about 1 person in there. And it takes forever for them to do anything. And all these guys are doing, they're not offering $18 million for it or $20 million for it. They just want to go out there and look at it and see what's out there. That's all. And I don't see anything wrong with that. They've been here about 5 times up to now. I think that they deserve a chance to go out there and look at it and then tell us what's out there. What Paul's asking. Find out what it is. They're experts. They're professionals. Let's just see what they have to say. That's all.
Are you done, sir? Council.
Call for the question.
Council.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Okay, regarding the BIA and the length of time it takes, if I'm not mistaken, they didn't pick up Chairman Waller's letter until January the 25th. So they probably haven't had it but a couple of work minutes for one thing. I don't know why that is.
We sent it weeks ago.
But that's in regardless. They will get back to us at some point, and if they don't in a timely manner, I guess we could write a second letter and make a phone call. You know, they're just around the corner. But by saying this is what Paul wants, now this is talking about these people want $200,000 that we don't have. We don't have $200,000. We do have $200,000 from Congress for one thing, and another $200,000 from Congress for something else, which we haven't done yet, and we probably won't be doing. And that we have an Attorney General's statement that says we can do with that money whatever we want to, even if we wanted to go buy a boat. I think I suggested that. If we wanted to go buy a boat, we can put it on Keystone Way, can we do that? And the answer was yes, if that's what you want to spend it on. So, okay, we can reallocate that money. But we're not prepared to talk about that now. I'm not prepared to make any decision about this $200,000, $8,333 a month for 24 months is $200,000. Part of it is to help us market some properties. Well, I don't know that we need any help marketing properties right now. I want to learn about the properties, and I don't want, right now, I'm not prepared to say that I'm willing to pay $200,000 for somebody to tell us what we own. Yes, I want to learn what we own, but I think we could do a little bit of inquiry on our own for free. We haven't even asked the DEMD, would they do this for free? They might. Yes, they're qualified, they're highly qualified. But I just think it's premature, that's all. I say let us table this, let us do a little bit of, let's find out where these properties even are first, and then let's decide what do we want to do. We've got their phone number, that's all. So I say call for the question.
D&D, where I hear in Washington, they don't like conventional oil and gas. And here's horror stories what's going on with D&D. The last time they came down here, D&D was all magical about sandy soils. Let's attack sandy soils. And we said that's not a worthy cause. Yes, Paul Revard is right. We got $200,000 from Congress. I don't think we're going to get it from anywhere else. And we can get on this quickly and try to figure out what we got at the Continental. So I kind of disagree. How much longer do we need? Because we're holding up production. In my view, we could have already had work going on with this last month. We shot him down. He offered, I can't even remember now. I'm not going to say, but we had seasoned people in here guessworking because that's another factor. We don't know, we don't have all the information. So we got to get that. So these guys think, come up with, okay, here's what it is. The information's not there. We got to wrestle that out of the BIA. And these guys are using head scratching and saying, we think with this, with that, our experience at Osage, we think its values here. Well, Mr. Radio on us, let's give it a shot. Well, no, we shot it down, so here's a couple of months. How much production are we going to kill waiting around for us to be educated on this project? That's my question. That's why I think we need to hear what they got to say. I don't think DMD is going to respond. I put a call into them. I still haven't heard. It's been a month. They don't like conventional oil and gas. So that's my thoughts, but I'll just say, look, I agree, Mr. Revard. Let's call for the question. We're going to kill it. Let's kill it now.
I do want to say that in this questions table, we have some other qualified elements in the room with us as our producers that I'm sure are interested, as they have shown, in this property. I'm going to be supporting the vote on this resolution. We're going to have to come back with what do we want. And with that, call for the question.
Councilwoman Curry?
Yes.
Councilman Redcorn?
No.
Councilman Red Eagle?
No.
Councilman Rebar?
Yes.
Councilman Shackelford?
No.
Chairman Waller?
Yes.
Councilman Big Horse?
Yes.
Second Chair Tishwala?
Yes.
Motion passes.
So we are, and then I'm going to have one effort. I'd like to talk to the council and executive, and it will be particularly over this subject on how we should proceed. Thank you. Is there any other element that we need? So I can go into the next item. Thank you, Jim. We'll be getting back with you. Okay. Warrior Methane Emissions Project, Mr. Robert Knapp. Don, how are you? He can join you if he wants.
Yeah, come on. I also have Gary Solis with me.
Gary, I knew that.
I introduce him. I appreciate your time, Chairman, Council. I've got slides. Lacey, I assume that you was able to give you guys the slides. If not, I have, unfortunately, one less than I think I need, but
They should have them.
Thanks. Joe and I got this.
are they gonna show it? So appreciate your time very much, and I have about 10 slides I wanted to go through. I'm not asking for anything. This is an informative presentation. I'm offering it also with gratitude, as I'm thankful that the council was supportive of our collaboration with TU and our research that we're doing with them that's in conjunction with this project. As a producer in Osage County, and also as the owner of gas gathering systems in Osage County, we try to stay aware of the regulations and the things that are coming down the line as far as methane is concerned. And I think that if any of you are looking at all, if you can look at, here's some information from the Inflation Reduction Act. We have the Climate Clean Air Coalition. I was looking this morning, I have a story from just a couple months ago where the Biden administration modified rules related to methane emissions that I think comes to bear on us as producers in Osage County because of the threshold. The threshold has been, as we see with a lot of regulations, that gets reduced. They're quoting studies, multiple studies that found that smaller marginal wells produce just 6% of the nation's oil, but account for up to half of the methane emissions that are being vented into the air. So it's generating a lot of attention and a lot of work in terms of the regulations that I think is going to come to bear on us potentially as producers. So I just wanted to share this with you. Methane emissions projects, we go to the next slide, Lacey. So when you look at what these studies are talking about, they're focusing on what they call marginal producing wells. And essentially that's most of the wells that are in Osage County. These are wells that have low volume, low reservoir pressure. We see that predominantly in Osage County. It's been a well-developed county for many years. Operators with these wells will typically vent natural gas at the annulus to avoid building up pressure on the annulus and restricting flow of fluid into the wellbore. And that's because they want to get oil production, want to maintain oil production and maintain a long economic life on that well. So because they're sensitive to that pressure, they let that gas vent. Also, a part of that is that it's sometimes, as I know one of the councilmen here can attest, is that sometimes if they don't have access to compression or they don't have access to a natural gas gathering line, they don't have anything to do with that gas anyway. So they don't have access to compression or don't have access to gas gathering lines, then they just vent the wells to avoid buildup of pressure in those wells. That's what the EPA and what this administration has been studying, has been quoting a lot in terms of some of the regulations that are coming from the EPA, and we believe that I don't know how they're going to be pushed down to producers here in Osage County. I know that the current threshold has been reduced to 3 tons, just 3 tons of methane a year. And to give the council an idea of how much that is, 2,000 cubic feet a day of gas, which isn't very much. You know, you can go look at a lot of wells that are producing oil, might be venting 1,000 or 2,000 cubic feet a day of gas. There's 11 tons a year. So that means that any well that's venting 600 cubic feet or more a day is potentially subject to the new threshold of the new rule that was just announced last year. And that's why we're trying to stay aware of this. We're trying to stay ahead of the game and try to prepare ourselves for maybe solutions that we might have to utilize to address this. So I'm here with Gary Sinise. Gary is the inventor and he's the founder of Airlift Technology. And this is a very unique, and I'm really actually very proud of this guy. It's a very unique pump system that operates on pressure. So you can use air pressure or you can use gas pressure. And we ran into Gary about a year ago, and we thought this was a great technology to apply to this issue. How do we capture methane that is available on the annulus of these low volume wells in a way that maintains low pressure on the annulus? So we want the oil, we want the fluid to come into the wellbore unrestricted. We don't want to hold any pressure on that reservoir. But how do we get that gas, capture it at the surface, and then have the energy with that gas to either sell it, put it into a sales line, or do something productive with it. So this technology that we're going to share with you today is a combination of working with Gary and his pump and his company, as well as a division that we formed to deal with the compression system side of this. This is a system that captures and utilizes natural gas from the wellhead, and it uses that gas to provide lift of fluid. So we're getting rid of tubing, rods, we're getting rid of cup and ring pumps, we're getting rid of everything downhole that moves and that is made of steel. It's all stainless steel and plastic. I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. The system maintains less than 1 pound of pressure on the annulus. So it keeps any pressure from building up on the annulus, but the pressure to operate these pumps is completely isolated from the annulus. So the fluid, again, is free to move into the wellbore. Any amount of gas is produced by the well at the annulus, we're able to take into this compression system, bring it up to a pressure that allows us to either dual manifold it into the flow line to get it to the tank battery, or to get it into a gas gathering system for sale to a
direct element is possible?
Right.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. And then we also are excited, one of the main reasons we actually investigated this pump initially was the low cost of operation due to the design of the system. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a later slide. And how it uses the gas to lift fluid, to produce the well, without the use of conventional rods and rod lift pumps. And this system can run on both electric and gas motors. I'll not spend a lot of time on these next 2 slides, but just so to give you an idea of the way it works. On this plan, this is a plan view of how the system works. If you look at the bottom right corner of the diagram, you'll see where the annulus and the discharge from the pump come into the suction side of the compressor at low pressure. Again, that's less than 1 pound on all the wells we're running now. The compressor package then takes that gas, compresses it to a pressure of 125 to 150 pounds of pressure, and we use that pressure to operate these pumps. That's what's creating the lift of the fluid from the wellbore. So we're lifting that fluid, utilizing that pressure, and because the system recirculates that gas is available to recirculate any gas that the well's producing, as little as 1,000 or 2,000 cubic feet, then is available for us to sell, to put into a flow line or dual manifold into a flow line or into a gas gathering line, which typically our flow line pressures run between 30 and 100 pounds of pressure, and most low pressure gas gathering delivery lines in Osage County run between 30 and 80 pounds of pressure. So we have more than enough pressure right at the wellhead to deliver this gas either into a flow line or to a gas gathering line. And then the next slide is essentially a cross-section view of what the system looks like. So we set the compressor on the surface. The compressor is taking, again, that gas from the annulus, it compresses it to pressure, it delivers that pressure to the pumps, which are downhole. That lifts the fluid, and then it recirculates. That same gas that we use to lift fluid then is returned to the compressor and is circulated to keep lifting that fluid, whatever fluid comes into the wellbore. The other thing that's very exciting about his pump is that it's self-regulating. Essentially, the first stage of the pump is either at or below the perforations. It's not sensitive to gas locking. As soon as enough fluid comes into the wellbore to cover the pump, it pumps. So, when you have in conventional rod lift, you sometimes have to use time clocks, you have to sometimes go part-time. The operator is trying to determine, well, how long should I let it sit down before the fluid gets to enough where I can pump it again? This pump self-regulates. It does that just by virtue of the design of the pump. So, as we go to the next slide, I'm excited to share with you our current projects that we're involved in to deploy this system in Osage County, because we think it does have application not only for lengthening the economic life of wells due to low cost, but also gives operators like us an opportunity to capture this natural gas that's available at the wellhead and potentially deliver it to market or be ready to do something with it based on the regulations that might be coming down the pipe. We started with 3 systems that we installed on one of our leases in September, and those systems have now been running 6 months problem-free, and they're producing about 8 barrels a day out of 3 wells and almost 60,000 cubic feet a day of gas. Based on that success, we went out and acquired 2 more lease projects that had some existing production, but had a number of shut-in wells that were not producing because of this issue. They had very low fluid, there were no gas gathering line available, and they would have to vent gas to produce. So we went out where it's currently almost finished. We've installed 21 of 30 systems on these 2 leases, and then another lease that Gary is working with us as a partner on. We're bringing Gary into Osage County as a new producer, by the way. We're gonna get him excited about working with us in Osage County. And we hope to complete that this month. So we're already, it looks like we're going to create almost 200,000 cubic feet a day of gas from wells that previously had no gas gathering line, had no delivery to market. What we did is we used these systems, as I described, to capture the gas at the wellhead. We put that gas into the flow line, sent it to the tank battery. We're separating it at the tank battery, and we laid a half a mile of line to a gas delivery point, and now we're selling gas off of wells that for 50 years never sold any gas. Okay. And essentially, we believe there might be a way to capture the benefit of that in terms of maybe credits and stuff like that. We haven't figured that out, but we know as a producer what we're doing is we're taking gas that was getting into the atmosphere, and we're taking that and putting it into the sales line where we and the shareholders, obviously as royalty owners, benefit from that. The next slide just gives you a quick picture. This is one of the installations. This is one of our electric screw compressor installations. We designed it so they're all on the same size skid, so we can easily interchange them. We can interchange them with various sizes depending on the amount of gas that's available on the well. Anywhere from, well, some of the wells we're doing now is as little as 2,000 cubic feet a day. We're pumping the fluid out of the well with that, and we're delivering that to sales as little as 1,000 to 2,000 cubic feet a day. So again,
it's regulated automatically by this unit.
yes, it's regulated. We've designed the system specifically to regulate the annular pressure at 1 pound. So what the compressor does is it recirculates any gas and bypasses gas from the discharge to the suction to make sure that we don't pull the well into a vacuum if we don't want to.
To lock it.
Yeah, so we regulate the pressure so that we can maintain as close to zero pressure as possible. The next slide is an example of our natural gas. This is another thing we're excited about. If you drive across a lot of Osage County, wells that are operating with natural gas engines like Fairbanks Morris or Continental engines, they commonly will burn between 5 and 12,000 cubic feet a day of gas to run one of those engines. This engine runs on 2,000 cubic feet a day of gas. So even if we have a well that's using a conventional engine burning 10,000 cubic feet, we can take 8,000 cubic feet now and put that into a sales line and sell it instead of burning it. So it's a more efficient motor, it's more efficient use of the natural gas again that's available at the wellhead. So we're excited about that as well. So the next slide, I'll just talk a little bit about advantages for us, and I think hopefully that we can demonstrate and provide information for other operators that might be interested. It captures wasted methane, like I've said, and eliminates venting that at the wellhead, maintains a low pressure on the annulus, while delivering compressed gas at over 120 pounds. It gives you a lot of flexibility on what to do with that gas. The energy that we're using to compress the gas, we also use to lift the pumps. And those pumps are all made out of stainless steel or downhole is all stainless steel or HDPE polypipe. So there's nothing in the whole well that can be, is sensitive to corrosion. So we're using this in some Mississippi chat gas wells that we're just eating our tubing up. You know, we try to keep the fluid off so the gas will keep flowing, and we just keep having problems with, when we try to buy chrome pipe or we try to do something to keep the corrosion from being an issue. With this unit, because of its stainless and poly, we're going to put this in some of those gas wells to re-energize gas wells that have corrosion problems. And then lastly, the elimination of the moving parts. So we don't have, as you saw in the pictures, the well pads are very clean now. You know, we don't have a gearbox, bearings, we don't have a stuffing box with stuffing box rubbers that leak. You know, if you have a hole in the tubing and the polish rod burns up the rubbers and then makes a mess. You know, we have a lot of advantages, we think, in terms of the operating cost. We're proving that out now as we've started installing these over the last 6 months. We believe it's going to cut our operating cost at least in half, maybe by 2/3, due to the fact that Gary has these pumps running in Louisiana and other short, shallow basins for as much as 10 years without coming out of the hole. So it eliminates a lot of the pulling and maintenance costs associated with holes in the tubing, parted rods, pump changes, that type of thing, as well as surface issues with bearings and gearboxes. Only a couple more slides. I'm sorry to take so much of your time.
No, go right
But I
ahead.
want to connect this. As you know, we've over the last couple of years, just because we want to maintain the ability to market our gas in Osage County, we've picked up gas gathering systems that we're getting ready to shut down. We've now got Kinder Morgan system, the Scissortail system. We've got the Osage County Keystone portion of their system, which I'm happy to announce I should have an easement finally any day. I think Natasha told me it should be signed and should be coming to me. That will allow us to connect to Keystone.
Oh, that's the last connection we've been
Yeah,
doing.
the last bit. And so we believe that obviously for us, throughput on this gas system is very important to keep it viable. So the more we can do to add gas volumes, utilizing systems like this for us and other operators, the more likely it is that we can maintain the throughput that we need on these gas systems to keep them viable. As you know, these systems are old systems, you know, some more than 100 years old. And so it's a constant battle for us to try to, you know, keep those lines, maintain them, try to address issues related to leaks and that type of thing to keep that viable. And we see this system as an opportunity, just like the lease I mentioned. You know, we think we're going to add a couple 100,000 cubic feet a day to our system that previously wasn't being sold because of the nature of the wells and the production. So on the last slide, just to touch a little bit on this, on the so what, is obviously we know there are a large number of wells in Osage County that fit this definition. The EPA and other studies call marginal wells those wells that produce less than 15 barrels a day. So other than the Burbank field, probably, I would say that 90% or more of the wells in Osage County are probably less than 15 barrels a day now.
Yeah.
Once they settle in. The continued application to producing leases or shut-in or abandoned wells can provide additional revenue, not only for the operator, but also for the mineral owner, and hopefully will result in added production, just as we're experiencing. And what we're excited about, we're looking at our gas line, and we're looking at opportunities around our gas line where we have leases that at some time have sold gas in the past, but were shut out by the previous companies, whether it's Kinder Morgan or Scissortail, because of low volume, or because the operator didn't have compression or whatever. And now we can go out and look for those opportunities, maybe terminated leases or abandoned leases.
Or orphan.
Or orphan that we can pick up, and we can install these systems in these wells and maybe regenerate them. We can start producing on an economical level wells as little as half a barrel a day, 1 barrel a day that have gas, that we can then put that gas into our system. And in that vein, I know the previous conversation just before us, as the chairman mentioned, when the time's right and the council is ready to hear our opinion, we would love to have be a part of that conversation on those leases that were
Yes, sir.
questioned. Because as it turns out, as Mr. Revard said, we know where the leases are, and our gas lines run through every single one of those leases, and they haven't sold gas for more than 6 years. So we're very interested in that as well. So application, the last thing is, as you know, we are collaborating with TU, and we're looking for opportunities where we can get funding that's available either through the IRA or through other methods to help fund the abatement of methane in Osage County. If we can show that there are wells that are opportunities to get wells in Osage County that are venting methane, we can abate that methane and get it out of the atmosphere, then we may have some opportunities to share together in some funding that would allow us to make that happen. So that's my presentation. Again, I wanted to make this when we were originally talking about the TU
Yes.
grant application, but I was excited to let you guys know what we're working on and just entertain whatever questions you might have.
My first is, did you target 15 barrels or less on the unit, or did you take it to one of the bigger wells and see how it
No,
can?
the 30 wells that we're installing now, probably on average are all less than a barrel and a half a day, maybe a barrel to 7/10 of a barrel a day. But like on one of the leases, we installed 15 the gas, which is only 2,000 cubic feet a day from each well, is enough to pay the electric on all of those wells. So whatever oil I'm producing is basically free of, I'm paying the electric utilities off of the natural gas I'm getting off of the well. So the oil is no longer burdened with the cost of the utilities.
I think we approach the federal government as the element of helping with the climate change and the gas that's leaving, that even the system on there will stop that.
Yes, yes.
I'll go Councilman Revard and Councilman Redcorn.
Thank you. Yeah, hi, Bob. The, couple of questions, the technical end, this pump, this new airlift pump, does that run on tubing?
It runs on polypipe.
On polypipe?
Yeah. So
And
we
then
run,
you said there's no stuffing box at the surface. Well, how is it, how's it get from the downhole tubing into the flow line?
okay. So the one inch poly that connects stages in the downhole is connected at the wellhead directly into the flow line. So it doesn't need any stuffing box because the fluid is separate from the gas already as it comes out of the well.
So it's run on a 1 inch
1 inch
tubing,
poly.
1 inch pop. Is that usually a continuous roll or is it joints?
We run it off of a continuous roll, but the way this pump works is you put one stage of the pump every 230 to 240 feet. So we have 230 or 40 feet of poly in between each stage. So the poly is connecting each stage to one another until you get to the surface.
Okay, so,
You got a picture of a particular well?
the,
We have a picture of the well?
Yeah.
Well,
Or on your phone or anything?
you know, I do have, I can show, I have on my phone, the picture that I have in the presentation is the surface unit itself.
Okay.
That's the whole system. Oops, let's go back, that's.
So Paul,
There is.
so basically we're using 3/4 inch poly,
Sorry about that.
3/4 inch poly
So there's the,
to
system
charge
that's
and
gauged
relieve the gas from the pump. So the
There
pumps
is our
operate
actual
that
well
closed
head.
system
And
as a
there's
3/4 inch
lines
poly,
in here.
but the fluid
Everything's
comes from
color-coded.
stage
So
to
there's
stage
a
up
red
to
line,
1 inch
that's the
poly
pressure
until it
gauge.
reaches the
That's the blue line,
surface
that's the
where it's
gas
delivered
out.
into the
And
flow.
then there's the black line, which is our 1 inch line, that our flow line is, so the fluid is actually coming into this well.
another question I had was,
back out.
what
The
about
gas that goes in
the,
to power the system comes back
maybe,
out.
maybe there could be some
Is
sand
in
or
the
paraffin?
red line.
How does the pump deal with sand and paraffin?
Is out.
So we run a
the same
screen
gas
on the bottom of the
over and
inlet
over
pump
because
inlet,
there's
similar to
no
what you would
moving
run on any
parts.
other downhole
There's
pump.
no leakage.
And
The
if
surface
sand
of the
or
box would be
solids,
actually
particularly from the
taking
formation
pressure
is an
off the
issue,
fuel as
we
it
have
goes down
different
to
screens that would deal with
So
that
we've
problem.
seen a
We have
17% increase.
We're running a
in
longer
fluid
screen or finer
because
screen,
we're
if
eliminating
there's but the
back
pumps,
pressure
the way they work,
as
because
well as
there's no moving parts in the pump, they can actually they can actually allow a certain amount of solids to come through the pump as it goes through.
Can it be backflush?
It can be, yeah, it'll backflush somewhat automatically.
That's our.
Every time it goes down, it actually cleanses.
Right.
I think I've seen this kind of a unit, I've never seen this part.
I still have a couple
Yes.
more. The gas, the engine that you're talking about, that instead of using 5 to 7 MCF a day to run like a Continental 46 or a Fairbanks Morris 208 or something like that, you said that this motor or engine runs on a couple of MCF. Is that like a generator that you're converting it to an electric motor, or is it still a gas powered
Still
motor?
just gas powered.
Still a gas motor.
Now, what we're doing on the unit that you see in this picture in the slides is we're actually using the gas from the discharge side of the compressor through a regulator to provide good dry gas to the engine itself. And the engine is specifically designed to run off of natural gas. It's about a 22 horse motor. We can go higher if we need to. But that compressor is capable of running up to 35,000 cubic feet a day. It'll run as little as 2,000 or as much as 35.
That unit right there,
This
this we're
unit.
looking at.
And if we need to move more, then we can. We just put a larger compressor on the package.
You'd actually add it to the skid and
Yeah, we just put a bigger unit. So like this compressor will move up to 37,000, but we can put like a Curtis 98 that'll move up to 100 on the same skid.
council.
A couple more questions. Are you aware of any tax credits for the methane emission abatement? Is there any incentive to capture that gas being vented right now?
No, I'm trying to crack the code on that. We're trying to figure out, we hear a lot of people talking about, well, Gary has even heard of like Google, providing funding for people to plug wells so they can get some kind of credit. So there's a private market for credits and there's a public market for credits, and it's a kind of a complicated system that we haven't completely figured out how to navigate yet. But the answer is yes, we believe there are credits available when you can show that you're taking methane out, you're abating methane out of the atmosphere, that there would be some credit available. We just haven't figured out yet exactly how to access it.
And my last couple of questions.
I just need to interject one item. It's Department of Energy. It's a Red Lakes program, and that's one of the initiatives that's going to be brought out by the Biden administration. That's where you're heading. Council, and then I'm going to go to Councilman Redcorn.
No, and Paul, to your point, in the Inflation Reduction Act, it says that they're going to provide, $850 million to the EPA or $700 million for marginal conventional wells for the abatement of methane. We just don't know how.
What is the act? What act is that?
That's in the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA.
Okay. Okay, finally, I guess the question, and I ask this to a lot of the folks that come talk to us, is the purpose of you presenting this to us. Of course, we're interested, from what you're telling us, we're going to be able to benefit from the Ural's technology, it sounds like, to get a market for gas that's currently being vented. It's going to help us environmentally, which we're good stewards to our environment. But you mentioned funding. Was there some participation and are you just bringing this to our attention just to tell us what you've got that we could share with everybody and you plan to share it? You're just, because you're one of our largest and most active operators in major gas purchaser, you're just coming to us and just tell us what's going on, what's out there? Or is there any type of involvement that you see us involved with as far as funding or participation? Or why are you telling us all this?
My main purpose in telling you today is, number one, I've always viewed ourselves and our companies as partners with you. You've always been very helpful. You've always encouraged us. We've gone through the 2011, 2012 concession, horizontal drilling. We've always tried to demonstrate our desire to just be a productive Osage County operator. And you've always, given us that opportunity by granting us leases, by granting us, opportunities to keep doing what we do. I'm just excited to let you know that even though these regulations, maybe, I'm assuming that someone like the CFRs, we're probably gonna push back. We wanna make sure that they're reasonable. But at some point, if this is enforced, or we have to deal with it, then we have an option. We want you to know that there's an option, because we want to try to keep production in Osage County as viable as possible. We have a gas system that we invested a lot of money in now that we'd like to keep viable. We know it's important for us as operators, and we know it's important in terms of marketing gas for the mineral estate. So we feel like we're in a partnership here in Osage County, and so for that reason, we want you to know what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, so that as you guys run into things, opportunities, you know what we're doing, and if there's a way we can help, we want to help. You've already helped us with the expression of support for the National Science Foundation grant. That helps us get information from TU about how to make this pump even better, maybe how to expand the scope of the pump into more types of wells. You've already helped us just in doing that.
As far as the cost, how economical is this equipment for one of our average producers that are making a barrel a day off of a well?
Right.
Is this something that is affordable? Does it make economic sense for them to acquire it? And is it available to lease on over a period of time versus purchase?
We don't have a program right now to lease it over time. That's something that we've talked about with Gary and his company. Right now, we've just been trying to make it available. It's somewhat competitive to conventional equipment, Paul, depending on the quality of the equipment we're talking about, right? If you're using good, used, drifted and tested tubing, good, reasonable, good rods, a downhole pump, and a decent pumping unit, it's going to be very close in terms of the overall cost to deploy this system versus conventional equipment.
Okay.
Now, for an operator that's out there that has, a string of tubing and a string of rods and an old 25 pumping unit that's, kind of loose and, not in great shape, well, then they might get $5,000 to $10,000 out of whatever equipment they have in their well. And this system's going to cost you, by the time you install it and everything, is going to cost you somewhere around $35,000 to $40,000.
That would be the airlift pump and the compressor?
Everything. Yeah.
The skid,
How much
everything.
again?
About $35,000 to $40,000.
That's all I have.
That includes the cost of the pulling unit, the cost of the poly, the cost of everything to run it.
And the stainless.
Yeah, the stainless pumps, everything. And the pumps themselves with the poly, everything installed downhole runs about $1 a foot. $11 a foot. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm out of business.
No, not the.
What is the lifespan of an airlift pump?
I don't know the answer to that. Right now, I can tell you we've got water pumps that have been in the ground over 15 years. The project actually started to bring clean drinking water to villages in Bangladesh about 20 years ago. And that project ended up getting put on hold, had the pump and started selling the pump, and then slowly got into the oil industry. So we think the life expectancy of the oil pump is going to be more than the water pump, because we think we're getting a little bit of lubrication from the oil that's actually in the pump. We've got a pump set up over at TU as a demo. We've got it in a clear tower, and then we've got the pump in a clear housing. So if anybody's interested in going over there and looking at what we're doing, it allows you to see everything firsthand, what we're doing.
Well, what about the volume? Maybe you have a well that makes 10 barrels of fluid a day versus a well that makes 300 barrels of fluid a day. Is it a different size pump for those different volumes?
No, sir.
Very good question.
Yeah.
Because at 1,800, it's dependent on how deep it is, Paul, and it's dependent on, the short answer is that at 1,800 feet to 2,000 feet, which covers the majority of the wells in Osage County, the current pumps will move about 100 barrels a day from that depth. But it'll move as little, like this lease we put them in, it self-regulates. So if the lease only, if the well only wants to make 20 barrels a day, it'll pump whenever enough fluid comes in to cover that first stage, it pumps.
Are you restricted by the diameter of your poly pipe?
Yes. No, by the,
The hose itself.
well, that's what we're working with TU on, because Gary, I know he could jump in here and tell you a lot of things he's working on that are gonna expand the scope of wells we can use this pump in. But he's already testing a different, design of his pump that triples the volume. For us, 100 barrels a day covers probably 90 to 95% of the wells that we operate. There are a few, new chat wells or maybe something that's, when you start getting into somebody who's repressurizing or putting water back in the formation, you might want to use this system. Then,
Could it also be used for a transfer pump to move from one tank battery to another?
Absolutely. And there's no limit as to how much volume we can move. We've got a system in Louisiana where we put transfer pumps. They're 6 inches by 18, and we've put 4 of them together, and we're moving about 30,000 barrels a day on that system, transferring it
Used on the surface as well.
on the surface, right?
Those are-
The limitation that we have right now is the size of the pump going into the size of the well bore.
Can I put that in a bigger line, bigger pipe, and move a lot of fresh water?
Oh, absolutely, you can roll
Councilman Redcorn, I'm so sorry, thank you for your
That's
patience,
okay, no
brother.
problem.
it. Sorry about that.
No, those are good, I'm trying to follow along here, I think it sounds good. Your gas gathering, how much of the Osage County did you say you own?
all the lines on there are in our system.
Percent wise versus what's all out?
From what I know, other than CEP and a little bit that Kinder Morgan held on to out west, we have
You
everything
got
else.
everything else, so that was my next question, CEP you don't?
No, CEP in the southeast part of the county, their line that they still have is
Still there?
still there.
Okay.
Down by
Now,
Zane's.
hold on, Chair. I'd like to ask a few more questions. We did kill the opportunity with T, I think, because to me, they were bringing up the question of our plugging efforts sounded good. And I don't want to have a bunch
That
of
was the previous.
academics running around in Osage County saying, hey, we're got a problem with the plugging.
Yeah.
That's the last thing we need in Osage County, in my view. So are we beyond that now?
Yes.
So.
We're talking about how we use currently abandoned, orphaned, or terminated wells.
So these guys at TU, they're not gonna bring this thing up on the plugging?
No, they're helping us evaluate and do research on this pump and helping us to expand it so that we can put it in more wells, so we can use
So,
it to the.
it sounds like to me that you're pressuring up your city gas down your annulus. That's kind of giving a little energy in your zone that you're trying to pull.
No, so we're only using the compressed gas to lift fluid, so
To
the
lift
annulus,
fluids.
stays, we can even pull a vacuum.
So
on the
there's
annulus.
nothing going on
In the
in your.
We're not re-injecting or repressurizing, we're just keeping the pressure off the reservoir so that fluid can come into the well.
Okay, so my last, and then if you could convince me, now I don't know how much it matter, that, that you're not messing with TU and they're not gonna come down here and give us hell on, because to me, that would be a problem, a bunch of liberals running around, I'm sorry. And telling other oil and gas activities subpar, and, I got a problem with that. So.
No, you've expressed that concern to me before, Councilman, and I know that from our standpoint, what we're doing with TU is all about us driving the issue related to methane emissions and how we can not plug them or get rid of them, but how we can capture them and bring them to market for the benefit of producers and mineral owners, because we know that if the current regulations get pushed down to our level and they start getting out and telling us we have to do something with this methane, you're gonna have to either pay the fine, which is $1,500 per ton of methane, or you're gonna have to shut it off, which means plugging or not producing.
Okay.
So we don't want that to happen. We're
Okay,
trying to-
my last question is, you got my recollections, half to 1 barrel is what we're averaging in a lot of wells.
Right.
where can we go with some of the ones you're looking at now? How's that improving? What are we looking at? What's the volume to volume, before and after? I like the $30,000 upfront investment, sounds like to me, and you get this thing going.
Right.
That would sound pretty attractive to a lot of folks, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because I was ready for you to hit me.
Well, we're trying to make
Six
it
figures.
economical, yeah, we're trying to make it economical we know that most of the wells, you know, that are available, that are already drilled and have already produced in Osage County are gonna be in that 1 to 2 barrel.
Right.
So we want this to be economical, as an option to existing conventional equipment.
What are we looking at currently? How many of these you got going?
We just started in, September, and we're coming up on the 25th installation. We're getting ready to
How
do
many
another.
barrels did you have before and after?
Yeah, so
Per
we're
day.
gonna add, well, here I have one example to answer your question. The first lease we did, was a little better in terms of the per well average, but, it was producing about 6 barrels a day on conventional equipment, selling about 50,000 cubic feet a day of gas. When we put these in it, we increased the production to almost 9 barrels a day, and we're still selling the same amount of gas. The primary reason for that, Polly, is that we had a gas gathering system on this lease, but you know, the current way you can do that is you have to have like a lease compressor and then try to pull the gas from each of the well bores from the lease compressor. And our wells that were further away from the compressor, even pulling a vacuum on the compressor, we're still having 4, 5, 6, 7 pounds of pressure on the annulus. This system took that pressure off because it's right at the wellhead. And we think that is the reason why we got almost a 20 to 30% increase in production from those wells.
Okay, so it sounds like you're a little bit above the average what I'm hearing. At least with this one location. You've gone from 6 barrels to 9.
And it will vary depending on the situation. I believe that like a lot of operators that have like part-time wells or time clock wells because of the fluid entering the well bore. So I think, and Gary's seen this in his experience in Pennsylvania, is that you get a much greater increase in productivity by the self-regulating nature of the pump because an operator doesn't know exactly how to set that time clock. Is it ready to turn back on in a half an hour, or is it ready to turn back on in an hour?
So your liquid level's kicking on your pump?
Right.
Okay. And then the other question, I'd like, Mr. Revard, what you want from us?
I'm not looking for anything. I just
You're not
I'm
looking for it,
excited.
you're ready to
I'm
roll.
excited to let you guys know what we're doing, that we're trying to be a good partner. But
Sounds good.
you know,
Thank you.
that's it, yeah.
Yeah, good job.
Yes, sir, and I do appreciate the other University of Tulsa's involved with this, but also the Kansas University, K-Torp and the rest that we didn't do is going to contact them for the element of a well to look at the precious mineral side. The other is completely off the table. Yes, sir. I'd like to go to Mr. Sharma. Are we working on?
So they kind of stuffed me over in the corner, everybody.
I asked you
Bob
something.
knew, Bob knew if I came up here, I wouldn't shut up.
We all.
So everything we've been doing, he starts with a patent on the pumps. Bob gets into this mix, and we have a patent pending on the use of the methane to lift oil and gas. We are your guys' partners. You know that. I've been there 42 years. You and I skated on the Mullendorf.
1979, Mullendorf. Your F-150 barely made it. We had to jump it.
I mean, we've tried concessions, horizontal Mississippi wells, everything. What we're working on, guys, is a way to help save all of these little wells in the county, including the 1,600 wells that you guys have on the plugging list. What if we could go in and somehow identify those that will make a barrel? And those that don't need to be plugged and gone, but maybe we could save 700, 800 wells. We're not sure what this develops, but that's what they're working on. And we wanted to share with you guys, quiet, nice day like today, where we're trying to go. We're not sure of all the things until we get these 35 wells running. We're still learning, but we're winning. We're winning the battle. That's why the Red Eagle is so good. We're encouraging anyone to call up, come and look at this lease. It's so cool. Everybody that we've shown is like, wow, this could change the stripper well business, especially in view of all the things going on right now. On the 8th, we've got the CFRs to deal with. We got the EPA, I mean, it's on and on. And everybody's trying to take all of us out of the oil and gas business. We got a 650-mile pipeline we need gas to. We hope that's what we're doing. And we know Continental's up, and that's great. We're excited. We just want to be a part of the bid.
Yes, sir.
Because we want to put 50 wells on, get them in the gas system, and drill some more wells. And it's time to start drilling again, and that's really what we're all about. You know that. That's all I wanted to say. I'm sorry.
If anybody would like a field visit or a visit to TU to learn a little bit more about the pumps, just let us know and we could make the arrangements. It's nice to start at TU because then you can actually see the pump in a clear housing, in a clear well, functioning and have a better understanding how it works, and then go see it in the field, and it's easier to put the whole picture together of everything that's happening. So just let us know. I'd be more than happy to make the arrangements for both.
Also, could you do a short video of it for us and send it in?
Well, yeah, we'll do production.
Okay.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes.
I just want to respond again to the reason. Part of the reason why we like to let you guys know what we're doing is that if we come to you again with we want to buy some more leases or we want to do something, we say, and the reason is because it fits well into this model, into these pumps, then you'll already know what we're talking about. When we say that we're going to spend $1 million putting these systems in some wells that haven't been producing for a while, then you'll know what we're talking about.
We appreciate that. Council's in. With that being said, thank you very much. Gary, so nice to meet you. Thank you for the invitation. And also, I think it's also credible that we get to see the unit out in the field. I think it's cleanliness, but I know Department of Energy is gonna throw around $400 billion at this. And it's just like yesterday, the President of the United States had to give 15 tribes their water rights back. Guess what we're gonna ask for? But thank you.
To your point, Mr. Chairman, when we talked about what we're trying to find in this funding opportunities and stuff, we have 650 miles of gathering lines in Osage County approximately that are over 100 years old, a lot of it. And to the extent that we would have some kind of support or funding from Department of Energy or from any other source, it would help us maybe upgrade some of those lines, help maybe, get some of those lines in better condition to again, reduce the amount of loss, those kinds of things. Any opportunities that you see for us to be a partner in any of that would help, and we're excited to be a part of it.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Welcome to the Osage.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Council would like to take a short break before we come back in?
Can you make the motion to go into executive before you take the break?
So you
It's
step
just-
in.
Motion, we go
It's
into
just
executive.
easy.
Yes, I have a motion to go into executive. I have a second. Motion on the floor by Councilman Redcorn, seconded by Councilman Shackelford. Call for the question, please.
Councilman Redcorn?
Yes.
Councilman Red Eagle?
Yes.
Councilman Rebar?
Yes.
Councilman Shackelford?
Yes.
Chairman Waller?
Yes.
Councilman Big Horse?
Yes.
Second Chair Tishwala?
Yes.
Councilwoman Curry?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll take a short break before we entertain coming back in.
So we saw that.